It's 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 25th, and I want to call to order the regular meeting of the Ferndale School Board. Before we get into the agenda, will everyone please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next item on the agenda, item 2.01, is the adoption of the agenda. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as written or to propose to make some changes.
I would move to adopt the agenda as written.
All right, it's been moved to adopt the agenda as written. All those in favor say aye. 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 Anyone opposed? All right, we will move forward. The next item is public comment. During this time, when we are conducting our meetings via video conferencing, we are accepting public comments through a portal on the district website or through email. Any comments received prior to the board meeting will be read aloud at the meeting. Any comments that come in via the chat feature during the board meeting will be reviewed and addressed after the meeting. We did not receive any comments or any public comments for tonight's meeting. I want to remind you that Dr. Quinn also writes answers to questions received from the community during the month and posts those under the public comment item on the board docs agenda and also on the website. If you don't see your question this month, check it out again next month or repost your question. All right, we'll move on to item 5.01, report on the capital projects bond. And this is a standing topic at all of our school board business meetings. A report on our capital projects bond. I will turn over the floor to Mr. Debach to tell us how things are proceeding with our bond projects.
Thank you, Andrew. So I am going to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
So we are at a kind of a big deal milestone in the progress of the high school. The design documents are completed and they are currently undergoing review from all of the consultants. So the district is reviewing, the CSG, our construction management group, is reviewing everything. All of the engineers are reviewing their sections of the drawings, and as well as the bond oversight committee has submitted some questions and some ideas that they would like to have reviewed and looked at. It's kind of another constructability review. Part of the GCCM process is that there's continually a review and a kind of an eye on, can we build this and can we build it more efficiently some other way? So that's what's happening right now. So the documents are all completed and are now being, all the questions, all the comments, all the issues are being noted and being basically gathered up and compiled by Cornerstone. And there will be another review of kind of go through those items just like we did previously with the value engineering. So it's another basically crack at value engineering. So what I'd like to share with you tonight are a few drawings, renderings of what the proposed design for the new high school looks like. So as you can see on your screen right now, this is the main entry. So as you are either walking in from the parking lot or pulling through the parent drop-off, student drop-off area, and you can see the classroom wing on the right-hand side and the commons area off in the front. and the covered walkway that joins the main classroom wing and the CTE and athletics building that you'll see here in a minute. So kind of an overhead shot. You can see the kind of the grass corridor that we were looking at. Our perspective was farther up with the classroom wing on the right. Common area, the covered walkway. The far left-hand building is the Performing Arts Center. And then there's a little walkway between there and the CTE building, which is one of the pre-engineered metal buildings. And then adjoining that is the gym, the athletic facilities. And they join up with the commons as well. So the kitchen is actually in the pre-engineered metal building that you see on the left-hand side. And you can see kind of off in the distance the new track and the bus area as well. In addition to the existing weight room is the building that is right there next to the track, and what we affectionately refer to as the village, a little farther up, that are designed. They're bid alternates for the greenhouse, the aquaculture, and a ag sciences building. So again, the kind of a shot of the initial. And this is the back side of the classroom wing. So this is a view from the south, looking at the classroom wing. So 3 stories with staircases in the middle. The kind of the glass in the middle is a staircase that is just across from the entryway from the courtyard. So CTE and athletics. So this is a kind of straight across from the classroom wing on the interior courtyard. You can see the athletics and the CTE signage that basically mirrors the main entry signage that is up there by the covered walkway, and allows for after hours access into the athletics building. And a view from inside the commons, looking basically from the entry back towards the building. Classroom wing is on the right-hand side. You've got the kind of the learning stairs that are seating and go up to the second floor, where you've got a mezzanine for seating, extending the commons. And then on the right-hand side is the what we're calling the learning commons, which is the library, kind of a joint learning space, and there's some multi-use going on over there. Cafeterias to the left, out of view, and you can see on the far end you've got the student store right there off the commons. Another view of the commons, kind of get a sense for what it looks like from the inside in the space. It's pretty comfortable, and you can see the what look like vertical blinds or horizontal blinds on the front are sunshades. The temperature study that was done determined that we needed some sun shading in order to not make that room get too warm during certain times of the day and create too much glare to make it very usable. So one of the extended learning spaces there throughout the building, there are what we call extended learning spaces that are kind of alcoves in the hallway or extension of classrooms that allow for small group breakouts or students to get some personalized instruction or work in collaborative groups, staff as well. So those are scattered throughout the building. And this is a classroom, basically a standard classroom layout with a lot of natural lighting coming in, and a learning wall that will have the latest technology, touchscreen, allow for teacher presentations and student presentation as well, with minimal casework on the one side. And I don't know that, I think the furniture is basically representative of this point of just furniture, isn't necessarily selected. And an overall campus layout. So you can see the existing parking, some new parking where the current cafeteria is. You've got additional parking on the special ed bus drop off, in addition to your service yard, where all the food deliveries and deliveries to the building, dumpsters and those sorts of things will be. Your existing CTE building, new CTE pack, of course, and then the bus loading and unloading with access through this center corridor, which aligns with the covered walkway for students that are coming in on the bus. New athletic field and stadium, along with the track and existing practice field. Over here with some fix-ups for some track throwing events. And then the existing weight room is up here. And then the alternate, the bid alternates for the auxiliary gym, the aquaculture and the greenhouse, and the ag outdoor classroom here. So any questions on that?
I don't have any questions, but I'm suddenly feeling this sense of relief around the safety of our students compared to the current Ferndale High School. Wow, what a change. What a huge change.
Yeah, it's extremely significant. It's so the exterior walkways are on the other side of secure fencing. Same thing at the access between the CT and the performing arts. Everything else is between the building, in the building. So it's nice. And actually, this area out here, even going out here, there's a gate across here. So this is all within secured perimeter, without looking like you're in a secured facility.
Buildings that are to the left of the auxiliary gym up there, you said it was aquaculture.
Aquaculture, the greenhouse, and agriculture classroom, outside classroom. They would like to have an outside kind of a lab so they could have animals and whatnot.
So those are the bid alternates, right? The auxiliary gym is not a bid alternate.
It's a bid alternate as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keeping everything straight. Thank you.
Well, Mark, it looks great. It's exciting to see what the school's going to look like. And certainly I appreciate all the work that everyone has done to pull this together. It is exciting to see. I want to, go ahead.
When they showed that first picture of the entrance and what it looked like, that was, I'm usually not a touchy-feely, whatever, emotional person, but that was emotional. That's awesome. I think that's a Ferndale pride thing. I love that. It's It's exciting. Goosebumps. Thank you.
So I'd just like to remind everyone that Dr. Quinn publishes weekly bond updates every Friday. And if my memory serves me correctly, the last one last week was number 73. So the bond updates are available on the district website, and you can also sign up to have them sent directly to your email. All right, thanks again, Mark.
You're welcome.
So now, update on the levy information campaign. And so, you know, we have just a couple months to go before November 3rd, and to provide us with an update, I'm going to call on Dr. Quinn. Linda, you're muted.
You might enjoy me more that way.
Yeah.
We have printed, and I think you've seen a one-page information sheet. We had several thousand of those copied because we're handing them out with device distribution. There was also an event in the Lummi Nation on Saturday, so we got some of our handouts out for that as well, a drive-through resource fair. The one-page information sheets, along with voter registrations, if people want them, are being offered at the device distribution. We have begun to get information to our principals to put in their newsletters, started to put periodic reminders on Facebook. We're developing a plan for regular news on the website. We're working on designing the one piece that we can mail. And, you know, we started doing the every Thursday Facebook Live programs. We did the 4th one last Thursday, so this week will be the 5th. We're doing those through November. They aren't designed specifically about for the levy. We've been mostly dealing with reopening information, but we do have a plan once we get school reopened to devote a couple of those to levy information. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the board? All right, well, I want to remind everyone, I just sort of went through the numbers, that the November election date is 10 weeks from today. And so in the midst of everything else that's going on with this opening the school during a pandemic and everything else, we can't lose sight of the need to get this information out to our constituents. And so I would encourage my fellow board members to look for ways to join in this effort. And Linda, if you can think of ways that you'd like us to participate, please let us know.
I will.
That was actually a question I had. It's probably one more suited to the campaign committee. But this year being such a different year, where maybe knocking on people's doors and trying to engage in conversation with them is not exactly the best way to go about it. But the other thing too I wanted to say is, I think it was in a recent email of yours, Linda, that if this levy were to pass or to fail, when that money starts being collected is going to be hopefully when we are getting back into school. I think it was actually your questions from the community. Why do we need a levy if we're doing distance learning? And your answer to it, I thought, was great, in that we are going to be back in schools and we're going to need that levy then. We need it now with distance learning, but I'll get off my soapbox. Excuse me.
That's a point well made. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, we'll move on to item 5.03, the reopening of school. And this has also been a regular item on our school board agendas this summer. And so we want to have an update now. You know, for those of you who attended last Tuesday's meeting, we approved the plan created by the reopening task force according to the rules set forth by OSPI. So at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Dr. Quinn to bring us up to date on the work that has happened during the past week to flesh out the details of the plan.
Yeah, and every day, more detail, we're fleshing out more details, but we're running out of days. I did, in my letter last night, I sent you a list of, and I won't belabor the point, but we went through of what we've done just in the past week. I'll just quickly mention that we've got daily schedules developed for students at all levels. We've fleshed out the plans for the first 2 weeks of school. We've handed out and distributed in various ways schedules for distributing devices at the secondary level, and we started that process today with seniors and juniors at Ferndale High School. We've, as I said, we've prepared a number of hard copy handouts to get to hand out with those devices, and that we also sent to the Lummi Nation. One of the things that I feel the best about is we're able to launch a new reopening school web page on our website on Friday. I had to make the decision, do we launch it before it's 100% done? And we made the decision to do that with a few areas that we're still working on, and with a note on it that says check back every day, because we're adding to it every day. There's also a place at the bottom for people who have questions. Another thing that was very exciting last week was we held 3 Zoom meetings with our non-English speaking families with the help of colleagues. I was there, and I'm not even sure what was said at all of those meetings, but we had one on last Wednesday night. We had a 6 o'clock meeting with Russian families, a 7 o'clock meeting with Punjabi families, and the next night we had a 6 o'clock meeting with Spanish speaking families. I'm so thankful for our bilingual administrators and staff members who helped with those. And it worked so well, not that it'll be bilingual, but we've also scheduled a Zoom meeting with Lummi families that's going to happen tomorrow at lunchtime, because that was their preference. And I have a number of colleagues from the different levels, a principal from each level who's going to join me in that, Jeremy and Heather and David, and Heather and Misha and Obadiah, Skyline and Eagle Ridge, since those are the schools where most of our Lummi families send their kids. We've our biggest challenge right now is just the connectivity piece and the having the devices. I think Rebecca Champagne said she has kids in Bellingham that they got a letter that said the devices they ordered were back ordered till October. When we ordered devices last spring, we were told we'd get them in August. They've now said sometime in September, which is a pretty broad spectrum of time. However, I think we've figured out how we can revive the old elite pads from the first year of 1-to-1 and get a device in everybody's hand at the first week of school. So we have a plan. Connectivity is a little trickier. A group called Connect Whatcom was working with all of the service providers and making good progress on that. The state decided to take that over, which I think is good in one way, but it sort of slowed down the whole process. So we are making some headway in getting. Who's the group, Mark, that has the 4-H kids going out and testing hotspots? And
it's through Connect Whatcom.
Okay.
It's a collaboration between the county and the port, and the Whatcom Community Foundation loaned their project manager to coordinate the Wi-Fi testing.
So there's actually kids going out to different places where we think there's problems and testing hotspots from the different providers to see if some of them will work. If a hotspot will solve the problem, or if paying for internet will solve the problem, we can do that. It just is, we have about 500 families that we need to contact. So we are also in the process of developing, calling them safe remote learning spaces in our schools, where we will invite people. It'll still be remote learning, but if they can't do it at home, we will invite them into school, and they won't be, it won't be like the phased in. They're not going to be assisted learning because our staff's going to be teaching remotely, but we will use paraeducators and others to supervise if that's, well, I think that is where we're going to be to start with. And so we'll bring kids in, we'll feed them lunch, we'll give them breaks, and they'll have headphones and they'll be physically distanced, and but I don't know. We have not been able to come up with another solution to that. The last thing I would say, and then I'll answer any questions, is that we are tracking numbers fairly carefully. If you've looked on our website, we've put a thing about stages on there, and it's fairly vague. It's really, I talked to a reporter from the Ferndale Record today, wanted to know about the stages, and there's no exact numbers with them, but it's got a dial. Those graphics, which were loaned to us by, or given to us by North Shore School District, are intended to represent to people that it's not going to be flip a switch and we go from one thing to the next, that it's going to be a gradual phase in, and that right now we are in stage 2, which is the descriptor for stage 2 says all students learning remotely, but teachers and staff can work from the buildings. And that's different than stage 1, which was last spring, when our buildings were essentially closed to everyone but essential workers. Stage 3 would be when we could start phasing in some of our more high need students. The numbers that we talked about a couple weeks ago when we made the decision to go all remote are actually going in the right direction with a reduction. However, if you remember, the governor came out with the metrics that said below 25, you should be okay to start. Above 75, you should not have in-person. Between 25 and 75, you can do some careful things. Well, as of Monday of this week, or as I think it was as of today, our county is at 44.8 per 100,000. So we're right dead in between the 25 and the 75. The 7 Whatcom County superintendents are meeting with the health department tomorrow and see if that means that their recommendation would be that we could maybe go into stage 3, which would allow for a little more in-person, with our special education students and some of the other groups that we're feeling compelled to want to get into in-person learning. And then another group that we're really thinking a lot about is our K2 students. The one last thing I would mention about reopening, and then is that we are really on pins and needles about enrollment. I think we're not alone in that, but across the state, people are worrying about enrollment. I think Kelly, we have about 4,000 surveys returned. If you remember, we budgeted at about, I think, 4,450. A 10% reduction in enrollment will be devastating, but barely manageable. If we go beyond that, I don't know. So we're, but we know we spent a lot of time today talking about numbers and what we do know. And we know that for some reason, Horizon looks like it's up, but most of our schools have Horizon, and I'm not sure yet about Ferndale High School, but most of our elementary schools are looking like they're 40 or more students down. We're still working hard to contact all of the students who we haven't heard from, but we're going to be down. The question is how far below our projection. So, and with that, I guess I'll entertain any questions or comments or.
Was that reduction 40 per school?
I would just, yeah, that, would you say, Kelly, that's a fair 30, 40 per school?
I would
From
say
what
that's
we can,
accurate.
from what we can tell, Andrew,
Mhm, mhm.
it's probably not real even. I know we heard Custer just processed 41 students. Was that the right number? 41 student withdrawals. People are going to homeschool or not start their kindergartners or something. Yeah. So,
The funding from the state, is that a 6-month lag time? Like, say somebody decided they were going to homeschool September and then changed their mind, or vice versa. We don't
well,
see that change until 6 months later, is that right? No.
it is, Mark. We're funded for the first half of the year on what we said our enrollment was going to be, and then we pay back the second half of the year if we're wrong, or get more the second half of the year if we underestimated. Your estimating, Mark's estimating for the last few years has been exceptionally close. In fact, that was one of the things Moody's said. They have rarely seen such close, what we budget on and what is reality. But yes, Melinda, we won't lose the funding till the second half of the year, but we have to,
But it might be a wallop.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm, like I say, we're making contacts, as many contacts as we can every day. We've brought in our administrative assistants a little early. I think they would all be back now anyway, but to try to help us with making those contacts. I know from talking to the other superintendents, this is just very typical.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah, do you
Yeah.
have any numbers, Linda, what's coming from the reservation?
No, I don't, I would just be making that up right now, but we can look at that, we can look at that.
Oh, yeah, I can talk with Alex tomorrow,
Okay.
see what we can do.
I might find out some more when I have that Zoom meeting tomorrow too, Jesse.
Okay,
I mean, I might hear just from parents what they're thinking.
okay.
I have a question that's kind of tied into those elementary students and the drops being seen at the elementary schools. It seems reasonable that there would be parents that know that their children will need an adult around to help them focus on their Zoom meetings or their distance learning. And so maybe that has something to do with it, what have you.
Sure.
I saw something on Facebook though that Boys and Girls Club was going to have Project Connect or something like that, which obviously would not have enough capacity for everyone. But have you heard or gotten a feeling from other childcare providers in the area? Are they going to be helping children focus on their distance learning? How much extra support do we have out there from childcare providers?
My answer is going to be somewhat anecdotal, but I spend most of my evenings answering calls to parents who are fairly desperate. And what I've been told by several of them is that several childcare facilities have closed their doors because they rely somewhat on state funding for students, and the funding model hasn't changed even though we're on remote learning. So they can't continue. Kelly Larrabee and as a team, Kim Hawes, Julia Basola, who've been working on exploring daycare and opportunities in the community. The YMCA is doing some good things, but they're very expensive. They're $50 a day, and that is more than a lot of the families that I'm talking to. $50 a day per child. So the Boys and Girls Club is $115 a week. That's still beyond the price range of some families, especially if they have several children. I don't know if there's a family deal. Kelly, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
No, just to reinforce Linda's message that we have been talking and meeting, and there's a child care coalition that's been functioning as well to try to brainstorm thoughts and ideas to support families through this. So we've tried to keep a list, and we just updated it recently, of child care providers that are taking students at this time in their grade levels on our website. We've just continued to update that and do whatever we can to help families coordinate and touch base with those different providers.
What about the capacities within our schools? Reading something you had said it would be just for families who cannot get internet access anywhere else.
That's where we started. We've had a talk today about whether or not to expand that to but I'm not sure, Melinda, that we have the staff, unless we had volunteers come in, to do other than supervise a group of kids who are on headphones and doing remote learning, because our teachers are going to have to be teaching.
Yeah.
So, but we're talking about that. I was at a meeting today with Bobby, I think that was today, Bobby Virta, who's the pastor of one of the, and they've had to close their daycare, but she's said if they're willing to support if there's a way to support. We're just running out of time and running out of, but yes, I do believe that the daycare and the remote learning is an issue, and it's why our K2s are our top priority, well, one of our top priorities for bringing kids back in. So anyway,
Yeah, it's just, I mean, my kids are older, so I don't have to.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not thinking about this, but I'm thinking if I were a parent at that point, it's, yeah. I just don't, I mean, do their kids not, I don't know. I'm going to mute myself.
It's certainly a challenge, but I think you guys have done a great job of problem solving and answering a lot of questions in the last week, much less over the summer. So thank you for that. Any other questions from the board? I know we get updates all the time, so thanks for that as well. And we'll stay in touch about this.
I in no way meant to imply that you weren't doing enough. I think you guys are moving mountains to get this done. It's just, it's a really big mountain.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Melinda was saying. I'm not sure what we would do if we had younger children. It would be such a challenge. So I know that families are stressed about this, as we are about providing the service. So thanks to everybody who's working on this. So, and to those listening, if you have questions, I want to encourage you to reach out through the website and send your questions to the district office, and they'll be addressed in a timely way. So, all right, we'll move on to our next item, item 5.04. And this is a discussion about adding a land acknowledgement to our school board meetings. At our meeting at the end of July, Linda and Jesse agreed to do some additional research in cooperation with officials from Lummi Nation, and to bring to this meeting some suggested process for moving forward. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse to report on what has happened since we last met.
Yeah, it was an honor to talk with Anthony from the Tribal Center and Lexi. They let us know a little bit more about the protocol for the land acknowledgement. And we're going to share with them the piece that we've been using, see if they want to add to it or whatever. And then we're going to bring it before the council for approval, and with some type of ceremony and acknowledgement of the tribe. So yeah, this is the process we're looking at. And I knew in the back of my mind there was some type of protocol or whatever. so that the tribe knew that we're using it, using this statement. One thing Tony said was not to use the land acknowledgement to just check it off your list. You know, it's something that I'm pretty sure is real dear and close to them. And I don't know how we're going to do with it moving forward, but we're waiting for the cultural department to set up a date where we can meet with them again. And I think that's where we're at. Linda?
Yeah, it was an honor to meet with Lexi, and actually Candace joined us. So it was, no, that was a different meeting that Candace joined me for. But we just talked about the reason for thinking about this is to remind everyone involved of our deep connection with the Lummi Nation and our indebtedness to them, and then also to signify our commitment to continuing to learn about the history of our land and its people. And we talked at the meeting about the fact that we made a step forward with that last year with teaching about Treaty Day. And so, and Andrew and I talked a little bit, you know, it's like we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's something, gets a little routine and rote, but there is something important about that at each of our meetings. And if we add this, it will also be a constant reminder. But we did talk about it's not the last step. It's a commitment to continuing to learn and about the history of the Lummi people. And so we're waiting, right now we're waiting to see what the tribal council, and what Jesse said, they asked me if there was something that we had used, and I said I would send them to them if they promised that I wouldn't, well, if I was embarrassed, they wouldn't, you know, I told them I'd use something at different times, but that I made it up myself. And so I sent them that, and with the request that they help with something. So I think that's where we are. And at some future meeting, after they've had a chance, they're very busy too, but after they've had a chance, we'll come back and look at it further. Right, Jesse?
Right. And the other thing Lexi said was that she was going through her process of her PhD and did some research on Ferndale, the Ferndale territory. So I asked her to send that to me so I could send it out, you know, just for our own purposes, just for knowing, you know, the history involving Ferndale and Lummi. So she agreed to do that.
Yeah, she's using it to develop a history course for the Lummi Nation School. So we thought it would be interesting to see that as well, just for our education. I think that's all we have for tonight. Just that we did our assignment. We did our assignment. We had a meeting. We got the ball rolling.
Yeah. And like Linda said, it's been overdue 200 years. So having it.
Well, they just said to me, "What's the deadline?" And I said, "Well, we're about 100 years late, so I guess there's not a real rush right now that it has to get done in a week." But so yeah, we were just joking a bit.
Yeah, but as far as being part of the school board, this is quite an honor. It's a real good step, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for taking lead on this, Jesse, and doing all this legwork, and Linda as well. Any questions at this point from the board? Okay. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about this as we move ahead.
Little question. So I know that there are multiple organizations around the county that do land acknowledgements. Do they all go through the process, and should they? I mean, well, they should, but how many go through this process to make sure that we're doing it right by Lummi Nation?
Actually, Lummi Nation said they've never done this before. But the back of my mind and the back of my, you know, in my heart, this is something I thought we should do. You know, if you're doing a land acknowledgement, you acknowledge the tribe. At least let them know what's going on. So that's, I guess, where we're at today.
I think in today's world, there's a lot of people out there with good intentions, myself included, that have good intentions and then say something and then learn later like, no, not the way to go about it. So thank you very much, Jesse, for helping us out with this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Then we'll move on to item 5.05, and this is a discussion regarding recording in-person board meetings. And as I mentioned previously, I've been encouraged by the increase in participation in our board meetings since we began holding them remotely. I'm not going to venture a guess as to what that really means, but attendance to our virtual board meetings has consistently been much, much higher than ever for our in-person meetings. So for that reason, I'm asking the board to consider a procedure for recording and sharing all of our meetings online, even when we return to holding our meetings in person. And I'll open it up for discussion.
I think it's a great idea, and it's probably long overdue.
I concur. I think a lot of the questions we might have to do with technology and making sure we have a good setup for it. But I have no questions as far as making them available to the public.
Yeah, I think that having them available both online and also recorded so that if someone can't make a Tuesday night meeting but can listen to it on Wednesday, it's a great service to our community. So I'm all for that. I'm not sure about the technology that we currently have and what we might need in order to facilitate this, but I'm not sure. Mark, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be the sound quality, trying to capture everybody's comments in the full conversation. Mm-hmm. So that's probably going to be our biggest hurdle.
Okay.
The sound quality has often been a hurdle that we've dealt with. So, I mean, that's something we need to address anyway. But I think having the meetings recorded and available for people is just, it's sort of, you know, 21st century. It's kind of where we need to be.
I think one of the other things to think about though too is, and this is more with our Zoom meetings when we're all at home, but the chat features. When we had our board meetings in person, we would discuss, after public comment, we discuss, and it's amongst the board and the the admin team. When we've had Zoom meetings, and if people are chatting during the Zoom meeting, it can be distracting or maybe not in line with how our open public meetings should be run. So that would be something as far as like during the meeting, can we turn off that chat feature from participants? Does that make sense?
Are you talking about going forward when we're meeting together or for the remainder of our Zoom meetings?
Kind of a both. I think if we have a public comment section, and that's when public comment should be made, then having the chat features or the questions being open is like, we don't necessarily go to them and answer them right then, but just even having them there, I think doesn't go along with what open public meetings, or at least what I understand of it, and I'm new here too, so I could totally have this wrong. But Mark?
You can turn that feature off.
So I would say turning that feature off, I guess.
And I would think as we move ahead in in-person meetings that we might be recording, I don't know that we would have that feature available to us because we're not going to be able to use our computers in that regard. But again, I'm way over my head technology-wise as to whether we could utilize Zoom to record our meetings and broadcast, even though we're not individually on our computers, because the feedback noise would be overwhelming. But anyway, Linda.
I wonder when everybody starts going back to in-person meetings that Zoom as a company is going to have to adapt. And if they want to keep any of this market share, they'll probably come up with something.
They'll come up with something.
Sorry, I took a little break.
Yeah, that's okay. We were just saying we were all in agreement that the board should record and broadcast our meetings once we go back to meeting in public, in person. I'm just not sure who gets that charge to help with the technology.
Well, me.
Quality is good.
Me, and Mark and I, Kelly Warner. I mean,
John Fairburn said he really likes this kind of technology. So
yeah, no, we'll explore the options. I think there might even be some options through board docs. I'm not sure, but
okay.
I'm guessing we've got a month or two before we're probably going to be in that spot.
Okay. Well, I think, and Jesse, I'm assuming you're on board with this as well. You didn't have a comment, but it seemed like all five of us were in agreement that it was the appropriate course for us to take once we start meeting in person again. So
I'll
add that to your long list of.
Well, I will see what options are available.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. After this, we can move on to item 6.01. This is an update on our conversations going on at the state level between legislators and state and local school board members. We're fortunate that one of our members, Leanne Riddle, also serves on the board of WASDA, the State School Board Association. So Leanne's going to share an overview of some recent state level discussions about reopening of schools. We've also posted a PowerPoint on board docs with information about this policy conversations. So Leanne.
Thanks. Thanks for giving me some time. I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint, but it's there for you guys for the audience to access to look at a little bit more detail of what we discussed. I was just going to give a broad overview. The group was a group of 5 school board members, some members from the State Board of Education, a number of senators and representatives from Washington State House of Representatives and Senate, and OSPI members, and a number of other government organizations within the state of Washington. We met 8 times, and it was mainly high-level discussions about what are the ramifications of what's happening today with the pandemic for schools, and are there bills that the legislators could consider putting forward that would help us? And so the topics range graduation pathways and credit requirements, learning devices and connectivity were 2 of the sessions. We met 8 times altogether. Interesting conversation about the connectivity pieces. At first it was like, well, education needs to figure out how to do that. And then the awareness was, no, the state needs to figure out how to do that. Education needs to be a part of it. We need to be there and help figure it out, but we can't fund it completely through education. So it's a bigger conversation. So you'll see a number of different items: residential connectivity, devices, and mobile hotspots. And I'll just add that it's Washington State University Extension, 4-H tech wizards that are doing that mobile hotspot checking. WSU Extension is also big in helping find those hotspots, get those hotspots set up. So there's conversation about instructional hours. How many days, how many hours do we have to have kids in school for them to count? Lots of conversation about district liability. We're kind of between a rock and a hard place. I mean, there's potential for liability, whether we bring kids back or whether we don't bring kids back. Many states have hold harmless for school boards and school districts. Washington State is not one of those states. Fiscal considerations, and we're gonna, the next topic plays into that conversation about transportation and funding and how it's in statute that funding is done per student per mile that we get them from one place to another. And if we're not doing that, then where's the money coming from? And at this point, they can't fund us. So that's part of the conversation. There was also that continuous learning in this new model, this hybrid distance learning is not alternative learning. It is its own thing. It's education done in a different way. It's not ALE. And along with the transportation funding, if the legislatures don't take action that in February, while we may have some transportation dollars in the beginning, we will not have them in February. And in fact, we'll be in the hole in February. So it's interesting because they know about this, but yet there was no talk about, they kiboshed the idea of a special session to actually work on this. And then we also talked about childcare, mirrors a lot of what, Melinda, the question you asked and what we talked about earlier tonight about if children aren't in school and their parents need childcare, will they be able to continue their education at their childcare site? And then that goes back to that connectivity and devices. And we heard from different districts where the device, the connectivity might be the parent's cell phone. That's the hotspot. And if you have 5 kids trying to get online to do your work, do their work, it's like, it's just not possible. So we leave a lot of people out. So I commend you guys to keep working on that. That's going to be crucial for success of our kids. But anyway, so I have more details. That's the overview. Just, I wanted everybody to know that these were conversations that were happening at the state level. I know they're happening in all districts and in all counties, but the state folks are also aware and thinking about it too. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you, Leanne, for that update. Questions?
Do you have any feeling, Leanne, for how much the state is willing to take responsibility for connectivity? Not just for education, but just our economy in general.
No, I don't have an answer to that. I know that part of the money that OSPI has committed, and this may have already come up here, the CARES Act money that the state's getting, OSPI has committed to a large portion of that being used to pay for internet connection. They can't pay for getting the internet to your house, but if you have that option, if you are qualified for free and reduced lunch, they've committed to paying. That's my understanding anyway. They've committed to paying for the monthly bill to have it there.
Oh, if you can get it to your house, they will pay for the Band-Aid, but they're not figuring out any sort of way, well, figuring out a way for the infrastructure so that we can have a long-term fix to this.
Correct.
Didn't seem like it was.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's big. I mean, it's this huge, it's like the elephant in the room, right? It's huge. And financially, the state doesn't know how they're going to come out of this. It's like, where's the money coming from? So just like as a district, it's like, where's the money coming from for all that we really need to do the job?
I think the pandemic has really shown a light on how far behind we are as a country and as a state, that we are so far away from where we need to be. It's just disgusting.
Other comments? Well, clearly the concerns and challenges that we're facing in Ferndale are not unique to us. So thank you for your leadership at the state level, Leanne. We appreciate having our voices represented in these policy discussions. And we'll look forward to hearing updates as things unfold. So thank you. So the next item on the agenda is item 6.02, and this is to adopt resolution number 212020 about laying off select transportation department employees. As you know, the Open Public Meetings Act requires that we publish school board agenda items at least 24 hours in advance. Our staff makes every attempt to get agendas posted at least 4 or 5 days in advance. However, occasionally we are in need to add an item the day before. This is one of those cases. Resolution number 21-2020 deals with the need to lay off transportation department personnel. It's my understanding that the district has been involved in conversations with the leadership of the Teamsters about the situation for several weeks. However, a final decision to bring this resolution to the school board was not made until late last week. Out of respect for the employees who are impacted by this decision, the district asks that they have time to contact each one of them personally before posting this resolution on board docs. Those personal contacts were made over the weekend. So at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Executive Director of Human Resources, John Fairburn, to tell us about this resolution.
Thank you, Andrew. Really difficult topic because we're talking about more of our people, and frankly, we've done that too much for anybody's liking. To understand what we've been discussing, I'm going to start by handing the microphone over to Mr. Debach, because it all starts with a financial situation that led us to these conversations. We've been talking with the Teamsters on a regular basis since we've been in distance learning, but the talks turned when the financial picture that Mr. Debach's going to explain kind of really clarified itself. Mark?
So we've already talked about it a couple of times tonight, and the way the state funding works for transportation, it bridges a couple of years. So there are what they call ridership reports, where we actually report to OSPI how many miles we drive and how many students are on the bus for each of those miles. So the weighted student miles is what drives the transportation funding. Last year in the spring, the state implemented special rules that allowed us to use the last year's fall and winter count for the spring. So we didn't lose any ridership, even though we weren't transporting students. And that's what allowed us to keep our bus drivers on the payroll and deliver food and learning packets and provide other essential functions besides just transporting students. But that was because of the special rules, special laws put in place by Washington State that permit us to do that. They have made it clear this year, as Leanne said earlier in her report, and I think Linda mentioned it as well, they have not put those same special rules in place. They have not suspended the regular rules that require the enrollment reporting. So while the first part of this year is based on the spring enrollment or the spring ridership report, which is actually the fall and winter report from the previous year because it was under the special rules. And our budget, we're going to receive funding from the state for transportation for the first half of the year, even though we're not transporting any students as of right now. The problem is that once we hit the transition from the budget numbers to the being paid on the actual ridership, which is going to be extremely low, if not close to zero, we're not going to receive any funding. So the way that's going to unfold is that we're going to receive our apportionment through January, and then we won't see any more money from the state for transportation until probably July, if then, right? And if so, the timing doesn't work out very well. So we're anticipating receiving about half of our transportation funding, and it's going to be kind of, the timing of it is poor. So we're going to receive it in the period we're not transporting students. and we're not going to receive any funding when hopefully we are transporting students. So basically the expenses and the revenue don't align, and without the legislator taking special action and making a law change, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. And I know everybody has been lobbying, the superintendents, the state board folks, the WASDA and WASBO, the Teamster, everybody has been lobbying everybody they can find to try to get a rule change. But so far it's not produced any results.
Thank you, Mark. So those are the conversations that we are having with the Teamsters. Like Andrew said, we're meeting with them weekly, and we kept trying to think of another way, trying to figure something else out that we could do. And we eventually got to a point where actually one of the drivers said, "We see what you guys have to do. You need to, temporarily lay us off until we can drive kids again." And really, for the kind of situation that we have, we couldn't have had, better partners, which just makes you feel worse, right? Because they have been working hard, they've been cooperating, they've been our collaborators. But the truth is that because of the pandemic, because we're not transporting kids, because we don't have activities that would allow us to be moving kids, we simply aren't going to get the funding for transportation. Although there's still groups out there, they're still fighting, they're still trying to get some movement in here. But at this point in time, we have called all the drivers, and we're asking for you to agree to the resolution to lay off, starting with everybody but our mechanic. And then as we can bring some kids back and we can assign somebody to our delivery route, and until we have some work for our drivers to do to temporarily lay them off or furlough them, pending the returning of the work where we can receive funding for that. The one little bright spot on it for them is due to a governor's order from last spring, our drivers who are temporarily laid off will continue to get their medical benefits. And due to the nature of our workforce, a lot of our folks, that's a really big deal. For a lot of our people, it's a second or a third career. And without the benefits, they would be in really, really difficult situation. The other thing that's really hard from their position and ours is a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford to stick around and wait for us to bring kids back. They're going to have to find other work because they'll be on unemployment. And as I'm sure you're aware, we're really short on drivers. And so one of the things that may happen is when we're ready to bring people back, we may not have a full driving force to actually drive our buses when our kids are ready to come back. And so this is a difficult little chapter for them, and it's going to be for us as well. So, questions?
And so they would be furloughed until we could bring them back. So this could be 2 months, or it could be 4 or 5 months, depending on what happens with our community.
Yeah, we really anticipate that as we use our schools for safe remote learning that Linda was talking about early, we will be able to bring a few drivers back, but we don't know how many families will avail themselves of that opportunity. So, we can imagine a route that goes into the northern part of the district and one to the south and maybe one to the east at the beginning. but if we have more kids that are needing rides, then we can bring more back. And so it's a kind of a quick everybody out of the pool, and then bring them back as we're able to get the work for people.
Well, that's certainly my thoughts go out to all our bus drivers, because we appreciate all that they do so much, and they are kind of unsung heroes a lot of time for taking our kids to and from school and in bad situations and bad weather. So this is
They're
certainly
crucial
tough.
they're crucial to
Yeah.
the experience. They greet
Absolutely.
our kids for the first time in the morning, and they say goodbye at night.
Yeah.
They mean a lot to our kids.
Yeah.
We need them.
Who are we talking about, John?
What's that?
How many people would this?
52.
Yeah, it's to begin with here, it's pretty much our entire transportation department.
And as long as they're on furlough, their benefits can continue. That's not time limited.
No, it isn't at this point. Like I explained, it's contingent on the governor's action that required that anybody that were on benefits that we haven't completely broken relationship with, who are not working due to COVID, continue their benefits. If we would have laid them off indefinitely without a plan to bring them back, they would have lost their benefits. And frankly, we would have lost all of them. They would have gone somewhere that treated
Sure.
them better.
Sure.
And we owe it to them. These guys they've been with us.
Yeah. Phew. Other questions or comments?
It's tough, but tell them that we thank them, for their service.
Yeah, actually, Linda and Mark both got on during their in-service this morning, and I was there as well. And they had some really nice words for our drivers, and you could see it in their faces that although it was a really painful day, they appreciated the sincere thoughts that were shared.
Good. Well, John, thank you for your work with our bus drivers, and Linda and Mark as well. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 21-2020, authorizing the superintendent to lay off bus drivers as attached here to and made a part of the minutes.
So with great reluctance, I will move to adopt resolution number 21-2020, temporarily laying off of selected transportation employees.
All right, it's been reluctantly moved to adopt resolution number 21-2020 rather, authorizing the superintendent to lay off bus drivers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And that motion carries. All right, the next part of our agenda, items 7.01, 02, 03, and 04, is our sharing time. And so at this point, I will call on our student board members, Avneet and Kong, to share any update on activities for students. Okay, you're both muted. There we go. Oh, Avneet, yes.
Okay, so sorry. I just received my laptop yesterday, so we're receiving our devices. Also, I looked at the district website, and there's a page for like the reopening school informations, and I just want to say thank you because it's not updated yet, but there's a section for seniors, and I just really appreciated that to like look at senior events and things that are going on. Yeah, and then as you know, school is about to start. There's not really much going on. But this is just a fun fact. I'm going to finally be starting driver's ed this year.
You. And that's
Congratulations.
it's a good thing to let everybody know we are offering driver's ed. Safe, COVID-approved driver's ed.
When you first said that, Linda, I thought you were saying it's a good thing to know that AvNeet's going to be on the road soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good thing to know too. But yeah, anyone who's watching should know that we're doing that. That's great, AvNeet.
It's a good thing to know that our learning drivers are going to get the appropriate training.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, good job. All right, Kong, anything from you? Put you on the spot.
Oh, sorry. I don't have any news, but first, I want to say that when like the new school picture popped up, I was like shocked. I was just sitting there and I was like, why is it look so much better? And I was like kind of jealous of everyone else. I was like, oh my gosh, the kids gonna those kids that are gonna be after us gonna be like so blessed. And then while the meeting was going on, I have a second question, but Dr. Quinn already answered that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll look forward to hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What?
Did you have other things?
No, sorry.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to hearing from both of you and at the September meeting to get an update on how the first month is gone. Elected board members, anything to share? All right.
I wanted to say one kudos,
okay.
which has been said in other places from other people tonight, but that reopening website is fantastic. My son walked in the other night and asked me, you know, what's my first day of school going to look like? What's it going to be? And I didn't know that the website was up yet. And I was like, well, I can find it for you real quick. And I went to the website, clicked through, and found for him his schedule in probably about 5 seconds. And I think to be able to navigate through to that quickly is tremendous. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was awesome. Good job.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for all the workers, and there's a lot of work to get to this point. It shouldn't go unnoticed.
Okay. Linda?
So I've got one thing.
Oh,
So
Leanne.
And what that speaks to again is going back to the levy and the importance of the levy. And I think some of the confusion in people's mind is the olden days version of the levy was called maintenance and operation. So why do we need a levy if we're not in schools and we don't need that maintenance? And there's just so much more to running a school district, as we all know. And that levy is very important for all of that. So just because the buildings may not be open right now, the work is still going on, and it's important.
And in a lot of cases, more work is going on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Quinn.
No, I've shared plenty tonight. Thank you.
Okay. And then to the executive team. Mark, you want to say anything about the sale of the bonds?
It went great.
The money's
That's worth sharing. Worth sharing.
The money's in the bank.
The money is in the bank as of today. So
Yep. Just today.
Yep.
That's great. And what I've read, you once again really did a tremendous job, and the taxpayers won on this one as well.
It was a very, very good time to sell bonds in terms of taxpayers getting a good return.
And that's just great. So thank you for leading the effort on that. And I know that our financial advisor gave you strong kudos for doing such a good job. So again, thanks.
You're welcome.
speaking of the financial advisor was there, I know we had talked about trying that out for this bond sale. Were we going to review that at some point at a future meeting?
I think it's a topic worth discussing for sure, as we still have one more bonds, at least one more bond sale to go through, but perhaps we could put it on the agenda for September and have a discussion about that. Would that work? Okay. Thanks, Kevin. So the next two items on the agenda, items 8 and 9, are the consent agendas. The superintendent's consent agenda consists of items delegated to the superintendent for action, but requiring the board's final approval. The board's consent agenda consists of routine items for the board to address. The board has had the opportunity to review all of these items prior to this meeting and is therefore able to expedite our work by taking action on them as a group rather than one at a time. The same items are also available for public review on board docs. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve both consent agendas.
I will make a motion to accept the superintendent consent agenda and the board consent agenda as attached here too and made a part of the minutes.
All right, it has been moved to approve both the superintendent's consent agenda and the board's consent agenda as attached here to and made a part of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. We've now reached the end of our agenda on the August 25th meeting, regular business meeting of the Ferndale School Board. Thank you for all your participation, and thank you to our participants who stayed with us through this meeting. I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.
See you later, everybody.
All right, good night.
Take care.
Thanks again.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Andrew.